The observation window felt cold against Maya's palm, a transparent barrier between the safety of the corridor and the silent catastrophe unfolding within. For 4 hours, she had stood sentinel in the sterile light of the Coalition station zenith, her reflection ghosting across the glass. Inside the containment bay, 3 massive creatures known as void raptors lay motionless. In stories of first contact, we often forget that intelligence isn't just about language and technology. It's about the capacity to understand suffering. The raptors Scar, Ember, and Ghost had survived the destruction of their hunting grounds, only to waste away in pristine white cells, surrounded by energy barriers that hummed with cold efficiency. Maya knew this because she had read the incident reports. She knew their designations, and she knew the anguish of Commander Thex, who had captured them during the territorial conflict and now carried that weight visibly. These weren't just dangerous predators. These were thinking beings. Dr. Kyrian, a Sethari whose scales shifted from silver to black in the harsh light, moved with the heaviness of failure. He was one of the galaxy's finest xenobiologists, yet even he looked defeated beside the 3 apex hunters. A floating consciousness named Unity 7 pulsed dimly, and Kyrian's scales flattened, a universal sign of resignation. They were giving up. When a technician with 4 arms and compound eyes confirmed that the raptors had simply stopped eating, Maya felt something resonate deeper than professional concern. She thought of wolves she'd studied back on Earth, how they died in captivity without their pack structure. The raptors deserved that dignity. They deserved connection. Maya waited for the shift rotation. 7 minutes. That was her window. She bypassed the security protocols with her emergency medical override. The air inside smelled of ozone and something wild and sharp. Up close, the raptors were masterpieces of evolution, sleek obsidian scales, intelligent eyes now dim, their breathing shallow and resigned. Maya didn't approach with caution or fear. She simply walked to Scar, the alpha, and sat cross-legged before him, meeting his gaze directly. "I see you," Maya said quietly. The reaction was explosive. Alarms shrieked. Security forces materialized, weapons raised, but Maya remained still, an anchor in the sudden chaos. Scar's eyes, deep violet pools of ancient intelligence, focused on the human. His head lifted slightly, nostrils flaring as he processed her scent, her posture, her calm acceptance of his presence. "Stand down," Dr. Kyrian's voice cracked through the calm. "Nobody moves, look at the readings." The flatlined neural activity was spiking. The 3 raptors, who hadn't acknowledged each other in days, were suddenly alert, watching Maya with intense focus. "Impossible," Unity 7 hummed, but the transformation was undeniable. The predators were waking up. Understanding often comes from unexpected places. The science team, baffled by the sudden change, ran scans while Dr. Kyrian uncovered the truth in behavioral databases. Void raptors were pack hunters with complex social hierarchies. Isolated, they simply shut down, dying from a neural cascade no medication could reverse. "This human is acting as a pack anchor," Kyrian realized, his scales brightening with excitement. "We treated them as specimens, but nobody was addressing their psychological architecture." A crystalline doctor confirmed cortisol levels were dropping while dopamine production tripled. The debate over protocol versus intuition began immediately, but Maya didn't care about the politics. She just stayed. For 5 days she made the containment bay her home, sleeping on a cot, eating meals delivered by colleagues, and communicating with the raptors in a language of respect and presence. They ate, they interacted, they lived. But the impact of compassion rarely stays contained. Word spread to Vesh, a wounded Kryllian soldier withering in medical 3 levels down. His body was healing, but his mind was trapped in combat trauma. When Maya visited him, sitting in silence rather than forcing conversation, Vesh began speaking for the first time in weeks. Then came the engineer suffering panic attacks and the diplomat paralyzed by grief. The human approach began spreading, transforming the sterile station into something more. However, every innovation faces opposition. Coordinator Zex arrived on Zenith like a judgment, a pure logic AI housed in a mobile platform. To him, Maya's methods were dangerous pseudoscience, an emotional contamination that needed elimination. He demanded a tribunal to shut down the program. The hearing was a collision of philosophies. On one side, Zex presented probability matrices and risk assessments, arguing that without quantifiable mechanisms, the treatment was invalid and dangerous. On the other, Dr. Kirian argued for psychological and social needs, but it was the patients who changed everything. Vesh stood before the assembly, his wounds healed, testifying that Maya had reached something medicine couldn't touch. Then the doors opened. The room fell utterly silent as Commander Thex entered, flanked by Scar, Ember, and Ghost. The Void Raptors, who by all projections should have been dead, moved with fluid grace and went directly to Maya, surrounding her in a protective formation. Scar's rumble vibrated through the floor. "You want evidence?" Thex's voice was rough with emotion. "Here it stands. The mechanism is simple. Someone saw them as people, not problems." Coordinator Zex, confronted with the undeniable reality of 3 thriving apex predators who had chosen connection over aggression, processed silently. His lights pulsed rapidly as he recalculated. Finally, he spoke. "Logic demands I accept evidence even when models fail to predict it. I concede the value of this approach." The victory was just the beginning. The human method was formalized. Dr. Kirian and Maya began training staff across Coalition space, teaching the galaxy that sentience required more than biological maintenance. It required recognition of personhood. 8 months later, Zenith was transformed. Maya, now 24 and confident, stood in the observation lounge with Dr. Kirian. He showed her footage of the raptors relocated to a sanctuary world, hunting together with a larger pack. They looked complete. Warriors returned to purpose. "Do you ever question if we did the right thing?" Maya asked, watching distant stars. "Constantly," Kirian admitted, "because it challenged our entire framework. But you showed us something we'd forgotten, that compassion isn't weakness, it's survival technology." He told her of universities across Coalition space requesting her, offering positions to formalize this revolution in care. But as they spoke, an alert came through. A new case had arrived. A juvenile creche predator, traumatized by poacher attacks, refusing all contact. "Are you available?" Dr. Kirian asked. Maya stood, no longer just a wildlife biologist out of her depth, but a bridge between species. "Always." She walked to the containment bay where the creche waited in terrified fury. Maya pulled her chair close, just as she had for the raptors, for Vesh, for all of them. She didn't offer empty promises or advanced technology. She simply offered her presence. "Tell me about your territory," Maya said softly, anchoring the frightened predator to something familiar. Later that night, Maya reviewed messages from across Coalition space, invitations to speak, research proposals, gratitude from dozens of species she'd helped. But as she looked out at the stars, she didn't think of recognition. She thought of Scar running free. She thought of her grandmother's wolf sanctuary back on Earth. She thought of the simple, profound truth that had changed everything. That sometimes the most powerful medicine isn't technology or drugs, but the quiet, steady assurance that you are not alone. Tomorrow, there would be more patience, and Maya would be there ready to say, "I see you." Proving over and over again that while beings are made of stardust and instinct, they are held together by connection. Subscribe to the channel to catch all our new stories.